So, thanks, Janice. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to my talk. My name is Florian Echtler, and today I'd like to introduce CalendarCast. First of all, let me briefly describe the scenario we're aiming at. So imagine that you're in some sort of meeting, maybe a meeting with very busy people, and now the question comes up about when to hold a follow-up meeting. Or maybe you've just even come across some people in the hallway, and you've also decided that you need to arrange for some meeting, you need to find a common date and time for an appointment. And what will happen next will probably look something like this. So everybody will be pulling out their smartphones and start checking their calendars to find a proper time slot. And usually the more people you have and the busier they are, somebody will probably propose a possible time slot and somebody else will reject it. This will go on for 4 or 5 times, and at some point people will start to get annoyed because this simply takes too much time. And this is exactly what CalendarCast tries to address. So one possible solution, of course, would be to simply use some sort of cloud service. But if not all users are using the same cloud service, or even perhaps no cloud service at all, then this again doesn't solve the problem. Even if everybody would be using Google Calendar, then you would have to share your calendars with the other people in advance, and would also need to give them basically full access. So this is also not a proper solution. In terms of related work from academia, there's 2 pieces I'd like to point out. One is Precal from UBCon 2014, which uses pre-installed calendar displays in every room, basically, which then detect the presence of persons using Wi-Fi and show their calendars on that public display. If more than one person is present, there are some events are selectively grayed out to just indicate that there is an event, but not the actual contents of the event. Of course, this requires quite a lot of pre-installed infrastructure, and especially it also requires people to sign up for this service beforehand. So if some visitor is present who doesn't use the service, then it doesn't actually help people to find an appointment. Another interesting work is Encore from Mobisys 2014, which which creates a list of encounters which people had, so people you've been in close physical proximity to, and then tries to correlate these encounters with events from Facebook, from your calendar, and with locations to create sort of a log or a journal of who you've encountered. And Encore actually uses a very interesting technology here. It uses Bluetooth Low Energy and specifically the feature to create local broadcasts. These broadcasts are originally intended just to announce the presence of a device, but you can also put custom data into those broadcasts. It's only a very small amount of data you can put in there, but it can be sent to other devices in the vicinity without any kind of prior setup, pin exchange, or anything like that. And so this is what CalendarCast actually uses. So the central idea is that in the first step, we create a bit mask from free and busy time slots in your calendar for a specific time range. And then this bit mask representing your available time slots is broadcast to the other participants using Bluetooth Low Energy. Let me briefly show you a video of how this works. So as soon as the app is started, it starts receiving and at the same time broadcasting these messages. Every time a new device is added, it starts to add its own contents to this aggregate calendar, which is then created across all devices simultaneously. The important part, and you can also see this a little better in the screenshot maybe, the important part is that only you yourself will still be able to see the actual content of your events. So this event on the left device is just shown as a grayed out block on the right device, and vice versa. So the actual contents of the events remains visible only to you, but your neighbors can see that there is some kind of blocker. They can't even see from whom that blocker originated, but that this time slot is somehow not free anymore. And conversely, of course, you can now easily detect which time slots are still free for everyone, and it makes it a lot easier to find that appointment you've been looking for. I've evaluated this with 20 participants in pairs of 2. They were given the task of finding a common appointment on a pre-selected calendar, with the additional constraint that a simulated meeting room also had to be available, so they had to reconcile 3 calendars in total. And as you can see, so we tested this with sparsely and densely populated calendars, and for the sparse condition, we got a reduction in task completion time by 66%. For the densely populated calendars, it was even a reduction by 84%. So I think it's safe to assume that CalendarCast does indeed help with the scenario I described earlier and helps people to find a common date and time quicker. With this, I'm already at the end of my talk. To summarize, CalendarCast enables sharing of appointment data using Bluetooth Low Energy. Only free and busy information is shared. The actual content remains private, and it does significantly reduce task completion time. Thanks for listening. I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you. So it's obvious that everyone has to be in the same room together.
Yes.
Do you have any future plans for how to do it in terms of networked devices? So we have a meeting, some of it's over Skype, so there's one person who's just not in the room. Like how to manage being able to get his or her calendar.
Oh, okay. Well, that's an interesting question. I think, well, on the one hand, it's actually a feature that it's only locally, because that actually helps you retain privacy. On the other hand, you might be able, for example, to use some different channel like ultrasound to maybe even communicate over a audio-video link, possibly. That might be an option. It's not something I've thought about too much by now, but I'll definitely keep that in mind. Ultrasound might actually be an option.
Hi, Cami Vanier, University of Edinburgh. I find that my calendar entries have a wide range of movability across different things, so I was very grateful when Doodle added the if necessary button option. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering how well that maps into some of these spaces.
Well, this would still work, I think, because on the one hand, you're in the same room, so you can say, oh, there's one appointment blocking at this and that time. Can't you move that? Because you're just talking to the people, then the one person who's actually having that appointment will can say, can I move it or not? So basically, you would have to self-identify, oh, yeah, that's my appointment. No problem, I can move that. And you can even do that ad hoc. The messages keep broadcasting continuously, and if you just move it, then that blocker will vanish for the other people. So it's possible to modify the calendar on the fly and keep that information basically up to date on the other people's devices. All right. Thanks.